every thought that we have actually impacts our DNA, and every thought has an associated emotion or a feeling, and it's actually a vibration. Thought is our power of creation. Everything in this world has been created by somebody first thinking about it. If we're not aware, nothing can change. When we can control everything, then we feel safe. But of course, we really have no control about anything except how we respond to life. It's practicing every day. I'm going to fill my head with beautiful stories. I'm going to feel good. I'm going to look for things that make me feel good.
Hey everyone. Thanks for tuning in to the Vibrant Soul Society, The Conversations. Our mission here is to simply help you to discover that you are greater than your thoughts. And the opposite side of our thoughts is our vibrant soul. So welcome to the Conversations, Dina.
Oh, thank you, Baba Sam. I'm really pleased to be here.
So for people that are unfamiliar with you, who is Dina?
Started my coaching career in 2002 when I did my first NLP course. And from there, it just evolved. I become a Neurosomantics coach, then an NLP and Neurosomantics trainer. And then I studied PNI, the science of how our mind states affect our immune system. And from there on, a quantum leap coach, and my latest certification is the quantum human design transformation coach. So I'm very familiar with that we are much more than our thoughts. In 2020, I received the opportunity to start my publishing business. I've always loved books, so I really love the idea of publishing stories. Yeah, that's where I am now. I'm still do the coaching, the quantum human design and alignment topic is really about self-love and alignment with our true self. And I do publishing. I've published 4 internet bestsellers and launched with that over 100 entrepreneurs as international best-selling authors. So it's really a wonderful journey.
Yeah, so I'm just curious if we go back a little bit. So what was that catalyst in 2002 to go for that coaching? What was going on in your life before that?
Actually, I was in IT in my previous life. At that stage, my husband, we actually had a terrible financial failure. We were really looking for answers. We'd never heard about coaching at that stage, and we heard about coaching for the first time. We went to this psychologist who was also an NLP practitioner. And that's where I really fell in love with NLP and know myself, because I had no idea, to really explore the beliefs and the assumptions about myself and the really low self-esteem that I had for myself. So that was really an amazing journey to start my journey to myself from there.
So it sounds like you heard about coaching because you just went through a financial failure and you were looking for another opportunity, or was it something that you were personally going through in life? You were saying you're a psychologist and you were going through some things as well in your personal life that there had to be more. What was going on at that time?
It was really about that financial failure was the catalyst for both my late husband and myself to actually go to this psychologist. And so it was really to find answers for ourselves as well, because we were quite traumatized by that event. And so it was really a journey to self. When, as we know, we are guided. Things happen in our lives that disrupt our lives so that we can embark on a journey of self-discovery and our spiritual awakening, as it were.
So you're just going through a very stressful time during that period of your life. And there has to be a way forward. So let's talk to someone and that gets you started on the path.
Yes. So it wasn't at that stage about looking for an opportunity. However, Me and my husband, or my husband and I already discussed me leaving the IT industry because it was so demanding on our family life as well. I decided to leave IT. So this was just a beautiful, heaven sent new direction for me.
That's beautiful. There's something else that you said in the beginning that I want to go back to. I think it's really important for people to understand how our mind states affect our immune systems. Can you talk more about that?
Sure. Every thought that we have actually impacts our DNA, and every thought has an associated emotion or a feeling, and it's actually a vibration. So thoughts are energy, and we are energy. Every cell is all pure energy, and we live in a thought universe. Thought is the creation, is our power of creation. Everything in this world has been created by somebody first thinking about it. We also pick up thoughts and beliefs systems when we grow up from our parents and teachers, people that we see as authority. And there is no such thing as perfect parenting. It's designed that way, that we go through this individuation process. We come into this life with a mission, with a soul curriculum or a soul contract, and the lessons that our soul would like to evolve. And then, of course, we are dumped in circumstances that's quite the opposite of that. But what it comes down to is that thoughts have a frequency, and so the associated emotion as well. And that frequency then causes a cocktail to be transmitted and pumped through every cell in our body. If it's a low vibration thought of fear or disappointment or guilt or shame, then the cocktail consists of cortisol, adrenaline, and very little dopamine or serotonin. That gets pumped through our body, and immediately our amygdala, our fight or flight part of our brain, gets alerted that here is a danger. If we really encounter a life-threatening danger, then it is absolutely perfect that we go into fight or flight. But when we have prolonged stress about relationships or money, our body actually ongoing, continuous pumping of adrenaline and cortisol creates inflammation in our body. And it's that inflammation that the body goes and wants to fight these intruders but there's nothing. So it creates inflammation, and that prolonged inflammation, the accumulation of that then results in disease. Like type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's and dementia and Parkinson's and cancers and tumors. It's a fact that whenever we have a disease, it starts in the mind.
So I agree with that. Our thoughts are a frequency, and the way we're thinking creates our reality or that inner environment within us. So for somebody that may not even be aware that their thoughts that they're thinking is creating this reality within them, what's the first step to get them to realize that they can control their thoughts, if that's the right description, to be more positive as opposed to low?
If you think about it, I always call it the supply chain of the mind. As we think, so we feel. And that puts us in a mind-body state. And we're always in a state. And then we take action from that state. And then, of course, there's a consequence from our action, our behavior, whatever we say and do. And that's how we create our lives. So the first step to change this is self-awareness. We need to become aware of how we feel. And when we become aware of how we feel, then we have a window. Ask, what am I thinking to make me feel this way? Because there's a thought that happens to create the emotion, the feeling. And it's then to be curious instead of trying to suppress it or escape it, is be curious. Then, wow. So I believe this about the situation, but it's not actually true. It's not my belief. And then to start changing it. So that's how you start flipping the script. Because I love this equation, Baba Sam, of Jim Rohn. He coined this equation that says E plus R equals O. So the E stands for an event, and the R stands for response or mostly reactions. And then the O is the outcome. If you want to change the outcome, you can't change the events. We have no control over what comes at us. The only thing you can change is the response. And the only way you can change the response is to change the way you think about it. Attach a meaning to everything. We have meaning for everything. People, places, things, animals, everything. And it's that meaning that we give things that actually is that thought that triggers that emotion. So it's to change the meaning. So what am I thinking and how can I change this? What else can this mean? So now we start expanding our consciousness and we have a game. Right? Make this a game to think I'm going to have at least 5 other meanings about something. And just play with your mind, because not only do you interrupt that thought pattern, but you also now expand your consciousness by playing with it. So instead of being angry or disappointed or fearful even about our thoughts, is to be curious about them. Because self-awareness is the first step. If we're not aware, nothing can change.
There's just so many nuggets of wisdom in there. Let's talk about this because this self-awareness is really key. Because when I was very sick, I didn't have this self-awareness. I didn't know I needed to break my thought pattern. It was always medicine, doctors, diagnosis. That was my loop. It's almost like I had a blind spot that I couldn't see that there was another way forward. So how do we break that pattern? How do we break that thought loop? How do we stop this exterior cycle that we get ourselves into?
I think number one is to really understand that if anything in our lives, especially with our health, is off, it's not about anything external. We have to go internal. We have to find, what is it? What thought pattern is this? What do I believe about something? And it can be a person, a toxic relationship that you have with someone. And that is a great trigger. So to become aware of our triggers, that are emotional triggers, so that when you have, suddenly you find yourself, your body is flooded with fear, that's a big sign of, what am I thinking here? What is the meaning I give to this person or this situation? We were given this beautiful gift of emotion, of our feelings that we can use as a barometer for our frequency, our vibration, and our thinking, so that we can actually start examining out of curiosity, what is that pattern? And when we become curious and still, it does come up. Curiosity is very important. And I think this is so important because people believe everything that they think. And they think that whenever they feel an emotion, it must be true. It's not the case. You are not your thoughts and you are not your emotions. You are spiritual beings having a human experience. And we have thoughts and we have emotions, but we are more than that. So that's number one. And the other thing is that the thoughts and emotions, especially low vibration thoughts and emotions, and very often about ourselves, how we see ourselves, our self-image, what we believe about who we are in this world. is a driver behind every decision that you make it from that framework of how you see yourself. So if you see yourself as someone that is brilliant and you believe that you are awesome and really feel great about yourself, then you will have two different thought patterns. And then someone, if you see yourself as having a low self-esteem, as someone who is not good enough, who is not worthy, who is not deserving, who is stupid, who is this, who is less than other people, that change your self-image. Talk to yourself in the mirror and say, you know what? I love you. I accept you. I appreciate you. Because it starts with self-acceptance. We have to love ourselves. And we can find our human self, especially our bodies often, as non-desirable. We complain about our hair or our eyes or our legs. And yes, if we can change it, if you don't like your hair, change it. But the things that we cannot change, we must really realize that we chose that body. We chose the life. We chose this human experience. So when we can start accepting ourselves for who we are, accepting our shadows, our amazing characteristics, as well as the ones that are not so glamorous. If we can start there, if we can start forgiving ourselves for the opportunities that we overlooked or the mistakes that we made, then we start healing. Then we start healing our self-image to look at life different. And gosh, I got so on a tangent. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, you made there's a lot of nuggets of wisdom in there that I can pull out. There's just so many good things, but I think you really touched on something that you've been talking about a few times that I never had this one element, curiosity. I just accepted that this was the pattern. There was no other way. I never stopped and say, hey, is there another way forward here? Why am I believing everything that I'm thinking? I never had that self-awareness to step back and say, why is this true for me?
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. And many people are like that. They don't know that they can change. They can change everything. They can change their circumstances. They can change their life in every aspect. And I guess that then things start happening to us to actually awaken that curiosity, like we get sick or we get into or out of a relationship or something happens that disrupts our lives, because we are definitely guided and our lives are disrupted for our spiritual growth. And something that's also important to know is that we have about 60,000 thoughts every day. And most people think the same thoughts every day, every week, every month, every decade, every year, we over and over. And our brain actually low. It doesn't actually do anything because it's just a repeated cycle of nothing changes. So it's so important. Your podcast is so important for people to become aware. Let me do anything different so I can wake up my brain. Drive, and it's true, it's simple things. Go to work another way. If you always go to the grocery shopping and you start in the one aisle, tomorrow go and start at the other end. Do different things so that you can become aware that there are different ways to do anything. Because otherwise we are really on autopilot and nothing changes because we are not aware. Anything is a huge program. It's a computer program. Every habit is a computer program. And these old paradigms are like highways in your brain. It's your default thinking. Your brain doesn't even think to respond. It's so automatic. We have to interrupt it.
Another thing you talk about that I think is really important to catch back up on this is that self-awareness that you were talking about before is also very important, because if you're not self-aware, you might not have the self-acceptance. I'm not sure what you're finding for people that are filled with judgment, criticism, they're not self-aware of this belief. I'm seeing these individuals with autoimmune diseases. Are you seeing this as well?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Autoimmune diseases definitely start from that self image that we actually cannot forgive ourselves for something, or we cannot accept ourselves for who we are. And it often happens in childhood, where we learn that it's not safe to be who we are and how we are. We are criticized, keep quiet. We are, the moment we start going to school, the teachers compare. If you're not so bright, you sit in row D. And so people are trained, kids are put in this competition milieu from so young. So we learn, I've got to compete, and I'm comparing myself all the time to other people. And of course, I find myself less than. I'm not as bright, I'm not as fast, I'm not as. And now we start really finding fault with ourselves and can't accept ourselves because we see ourselves as damaged, or we see ourselves as, I'm not good enough to be accepted and appreciated by my parents. Because there you are said to shut up, or to be quiet, or your voice isn't heard, and or you are punished. There are so many subtle ways where parents can really damage children. Because whatever, up to 7, whatever a child hears, it sits. They take it. Children don't have discernment. They live black and white. They take everything. You either love me or you don't. So criticism, telling them that they're not good enough if they don't get 100% for a test, or then they're stupid, or they're not going to amount to anything in life, too lazy, or this or that. It's very damaging to children.
Yeah, I'm writing down some notes here because I don't want to catch these nuggets that you're throwing out there. And it's really good. I want to really dive into this because you said something that's really important. Not safe to be ourselves. How do we get ourselves into this state where it's not safe to be authentically us?
As I said, it happens from childhood. We become aware from about 2 years old. We become perceiving and experiencing ourselves through the eyes of others, through the eyes of our parents, our caregivers. And there, if we are continuously critical or sent to the room, or we feel that we're continuously doing something different, then that's a little seed that starts to grow, and we are not safe. If we live in trauma circumstances where things are difficult, or maybe some parents are abusive in some other way, then we really don't feel safe in this world. And the result of that is that we start to control things. And I always say that nobody actually comes through childhood unscathed. We all pick up our little small traumas or big traumas, or that where we find that, where we create those unconscious beliefs, or I'm not good enough, I'm not capable, I'm not worthy, I don't belong, I'm not part of this. And Greg Braden, he wrote a book called The Divine Matrix. And in there, he talks about the 3 universal fears. And the first one is the fear of rejection, or the fear of abandonment, or the fear of not belonging. It's all in that first fear. The second one is the fear of not being good enough, or not being worthy. And then the third fear is the fear to trust. And most people have all 3 fears. And because we fear that we are not good enough, and that we will be abandoned or rejected, now we want to control. And we want to control everything. So many people tell each other, you're a really control freak. And it's like the human condition. Because when we can control everything, then we feel safe. But of course, we really have no control about anything except how we respond to life. That's the only thing that we have to respond to life. Taking responsibility for our thoughts, our emotions, our words, and our actions. Not to blame anyone for how we think or feel or what we say or do, because that's really victim consciousness. Is that telling someone, you made me do that. It's all your fault that I'm in this mess. It's just victim consciousness. So when we take responsibility for what we think and what we say and what we do and how we feel, then we start transcending this victim consciousness and we start moving into expand our consciousness, that we can actually have that little space between something that comes at us and how we react. So we change the reaction, because reacting is reacting, doing it again, changing that to rather responding, so that we can choose how do we respond instead of just reacting to life. And that is something that took me a long time to train my brain not to react, but to take a breath and choose how I want to respond.
There's some really good wisdom in there, and I really like these. It's hard to take responsibility for ourselves. That fear to trust ourselves is really ingrained with that, because while I was in this medical system, it was always my doctor's responsibility. I didn't question that. I didn't have the curiosity. Is this really what's best for me? And I didn't take that responsibility because I had no curiosity. Whatever the doctor said, I did, because there's no trust in myself.
Yeah, there's actually no trust in yourself, but it's also no trust in God. There's no trust in the universe that we are supported. And we grow up as well, Baba Sam, that the doctor is the authority. They know better than us. And actually, our bodies know better than the doctors. I myself has a little health issue and went to the doctor and gave me medicine. And a few months later, I tested my blood. I had blood tests again, and I was worse off with the medicine. We really need to look for alternative therapies, alternative medicine. And as we know, start with the mind, start with what my belief system, what is causing this disease that I have. That is really paramount. I'm not saying go to the doctor. I'm just saying, just look at things as well a little bit wider for help. Not just go, because doctors are also human. They make mistakes. And the pharmaceutical industry really don't have your best interest at heart.
We just have to have this curiosity to say that we live in our body, what is best for us. And really, I always like to remind individuals, check in with yourself first. What's going on? And then there's nothing wrong with doctors, medicine, if it feels right and it aligns with your belief system. Yeah, I need some help.
Absolutely.
But not to go all into 100% trust into the outside, the external that you were talking about before, to go to internal first, then look around and see what you need outside of you.
Yes. And also, as you say, check with your intuition. What does your body say? We actually bypass the body completely by running to the doctor because we are scared, we are fearful about this disease. This is because it's also, we believe that if we get the big C or we get this or we get that, that it's a death sentence. And I know so many people who have totally overcome any disease. And you probably too. I don't know what was the matter with you, but our bodies can actually really heal itself.
Yeah, that's really it, that we attach to these labels and we we let the diagnosis be our destiny, and it really isn't, because you're given like multiple sclerosis. I had that. I don't have it anymore because I let go of all this mind stuff and beliefs about that.
It's just assumptions. Our thoughts and emotions are assumptions that we have about the situation. It's not true. It's assumptions. Rather assume the best case scenario. If we talk about assumptions, because we make assumptions all the time about everything and about anything. So it's a great practice to change the meaning to something that works for us, that serve us, that make us feel good, and become that feel-good detector so that we can feel good. Because when we feel good, our vibration is high. When our vibration is high and the thoughts are from a high frequency, our body pumps dopamine and serotonin, and we feel great. And every cell in our body is having a party because it's so happy. So we are wired to be happy and to make ourselves happy, because that high vibration, our bodies love it. And the energy field that we radiate interacts with the law of attraction. So we attract good things into our lives, but it requires from us that awareness and then the willpower to shift, the willpower to say, this isn't working for me. Do I want this thought to create my reality? No. What do I rather believe? What would I rather assume or accept? And it's a game. It's a continuous game that we play with ourselves to rewrite these old stories that are not true. It's all just assumptions. And start practicing being the person that we want to be. It's a practice. It's practicing every day. I'm going to fill my head with beautiful stories. I'm going to feel good. I'm going to look for things that make me feel good. That attitude, that gratitude attitude, an attitude of, I like to feel good. I like feeling happy. And I'm going to look for people and things and places and whatever to make me happy. I'm going to decide to be happy anyway. Doesn't matter what's going on around.
Yeah, I love that word assumption, because even with multiple sclerosis and all these other diagnoses that I had, there was literally thousands upon thousands of articles about the negative bias of it, the incurability of it. But I remind people, did that ever come from my divine essence that was incurable? No.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I just want to change a little bit because we're running out of time here, and it's really important work that you're doing with these books for authors. I think it's really an important message you're getting out there. They're helping authors getting their message out there, how you're helping others get their light into the world.
Yeah, it's such a joy to do that. We all have stories. And I believe our stories are sacred. It's our human journey. And especially as an entrepreneur, to have a story of our journey of how did we come? What happened? What was the catalyst that brought us here, doing what we're doing now, how we are helping others? These are the stories that I help entrepreneurs to share their stories with the world so that they can elevate their brand, they can grow their business, their impact, their income. And of course, being a best-selling author really, I always say, skyrockets your visibility and your credibility. So an entrepreneur needs a book. And there are many ways to write a book. Of course, to write a solo book, it's a task. It's hard work. And so I offer that to clients to write and publish their book with me, or to publish their work as well. We do that too, publishing services. And then as a first step to becoming an author, a great way is to write a chapter in a book. And you experience the whole process of publishing and being part of a group of people that are all going through the same experience. I believe we all have greatness. It's my mission to help people, the authors as well as the readers, to discover their own greatness.
Yeah, that's beautiful that we really need to get that message out there that everyone has this story that could benefit someone by sharing. It's helping another say, oh, they went through this too, and this is how they moved through it.
Yeah.
That's really important work. And before we were talking the show that you have an ebook for authors on your website. You want to talk about this ebook that you allow for authors who are just, okay, I have a good story. How do I get it out there? Does this ebook help with this?
Yes. The ebook is called 5 Success Strategies of Nonfiction Best-Selling Authors. In there, I talk about, of course, mindset, which is absolutely important. I talk about the type of book, how to choose the type of book that's right for you. I talk about the quality. Of course, there are thousands of books published every day on Amazon. So you really want a quality product and not a done at home quality, because the shoppers are very great at choosing books that have a great cover, that has a great book description, that has reviews and all of those things. And also to launch a bestseller, in other words, you need to know what you do when you do that. And the last thing is how to leverage your book. Because writing the book and publishing is the beginning. How do you leverage that story? The visibility it creates for you. How do you leverage it? So all of those aspects are addressed in this free ebook. And of course, when you sign up for the ebook, you also join my email list, and you can see what I'm enrolling for 2 books now. By the time that but you hear this, one or both of them have been published, but maybe not. So they are called Divine Rebirth. And that book is stories of spiritual awakening, surrender, and rebirth. The other book is called Miracles Are Normal. And that's a book about 88 stories of divine interventions and magical manifestation.
Miracles are normal. Doctors can explain my healing because the healing comes from this divine essence within us. So they are normal once we get the mind from stop interfering and messing around, keeping us in this low vibration that you talked about earlier.
Yeah, yeah.
So if people wanted to get your ebook or they had a question, how would they reach out to you?
On my website is also a contact where you can send me an email. You can also find me on Facebook, Dina Marais at Facebook. I'm also on Instagram. We are everywhere. And you can contact me in any way. And if you can send me an email as well, dina@dinamarais.com.
I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Baba Sam. I really enjoyed this. Thank you.